Good morning, everyone, and welcome. We'll just take a few seconds here and let everyone join the webinar. Right. Well, welcome again. Good morning if you're dialing in from East Asia, whether you're in Japan or Singapore or elsewhere in the region. Good evening if you're dialing in from North America. And welcome to this Asia Pacific, this MedTech Innovator Asia Pacific 2025 information session. This particular session will have a particular focus on Japan and Japanese startup applicants. My name is Frederick Nyberg. I'm the Managing Director for MedTech Innovator Asia Pacific based in Singapore. Joining me from our Singapore team is Glenn, Jermaine, Narissa, and Alvin. And I'll introduce our speakers here in just a moment. We have a really interesting program this morning. We have two speakers, eminent speakers that we'll speak to during the course of this morning's session. And we will also introduce you to the MedTech Innovator program. I wanted to extend a thanks to Japan Biodesign, our partner, for supporting this webinar. And you will hear directly from Yagi-san in just a moment. So let me share my screen and just want to make sure that everyone can see this. So we are honored to have two speakers on today's webinar. We have Professor Masakazu Yagi from Japan Biodesign. He is here to join us, tell us about the Japan Biodesign program. And of course, the Biodesign, Stanford Biodesign and Japan Biodesign and Singapore Biodesign have been partners of MedTech Innovator for many years. And we are very fortunate to have many of their graduate companies be part of the MedTech Innovator program, including INOPASE. We are fortunate to have Sugimoto-san here, CEO, co-founder and CEO of INOPASE, our 2024 alumni, and in fact, one of our 4 finalists in 2024. So you will hear more from Sugimoto-san in just a moment. In terms of agenda, we will have a brief introduction of Japan Biodesign to begin with. I will then talk a little bit about MedTech Innovator as a program, what to expect, why it might be particularly relevant if you are a Japan-based startup company. And then we'll have a discussion with both with Sugimoto-san and with Yagi-san about the program. We are happy to take questions. So if you are a webinar attendee, you can queue up those questions using the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen, or you can put them in the chat. So with that, what I will do now is I'll stop my screen share, and I will hand over to Yagi-san, who will give you a short introduction of Japan Biodesign.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your kind introduction, Frederick-san. And also, I totally appreciate your kindness of giving me such a great opportunity to join such kind of exciting session. So there, can you see my screen, my slide deck?
We can see the screen.
Okay,
Thanks.
Great. So that today I'd like to briefly share the, what happened, what happened to Japan and what will happen to Japan from Japan Biodesign perspective. I'm Masa Yagi from Japan Biodesign, and I'm working for Osaka University. So there, I'd like to go to the, actually when we started the program in 2015, at that time, almost no ecosystem in Japan. And, a few innovator, few educator, and few experienced mentor. And, most of the people love the technology and they don't like failures. And also the, incubation function and investment environment were not mature. So there, we decided to introduce the Stanford Biodesign because in MedTech area, needs is very important factor. So the patient pain, how can we figure out the patient pain? That is very important. So there, yeah, we introduced this. And actually, three national big university, Osaka University, the University of Tokyo, and Tokyo University launched this program. And all we got a fund from the governments and also collaborate with the industry groups, Japan, JFMDA, so that we will collaborate with the Japan Federation of Medical Device Association, the medical device company groups. And now, and also now that we are expanding Japan Biodesign all over Japan, and we launched a new organization, Academic Society of Japan Biodesign, Nihon Biodesign. So they're now expanding. Originally, the three university launched this program, but now there are, other university doing the similar programs. Our track record is, we educated the innovators, and also we have over 12 or 30 startups from our program. And also there are still other projects are active and preparing to launch a startup. Actually, at the end of the day, about 60 or 70% of the project new startup will launch it. I mean, 60 or 70% is not a bad number, I think. And also our startups are successfully fundraised from not only the public sector, but also private sector. And total amount of the money is over 30 million US dollars. And you can see we are very happy to have a wonderful startup like INOPASE here. And also our first startup was acquired, and so that we have already MA case. And also, so that, as I mentioned, in the beginning, no ecosystem, but now there are a lot of innovator we have in Japan. And also, we are focusing on building an innovation ecosystem in Japan. So we educated various people, industry and the medical staffs and local governments, and a lot of people we educated, over 2,000 people. And actually, we try to build a knowingful community, because this area, we need various knowledge and experience. So it's almost impossible for one guy to achieve all of the things. So we need to know the people who has know-how. So we try to build this kind of knowingful community in Japan. Having the same common language, biodesign. Also, now we started to contribute to the policy making. Actually, this last year, government told me to lead the MedTech and Summit Task Force. Given question was how we can support the life science startup by policy. So our team wrote a white paper and made a recommendation about policy. Actually, the last June, part of our policy recommendation were implemented in the actual policy. So now if you are interested, please check this link, and you can by reading it, you can know what will happen in Japan. And so later, hopefully, I will talk about the detail. So then, also I'd like to add some information. So why now? Why go to Japan now? This year we will hold a World Expo in Osaka in 2025, and the theme is designing future society for our lives. Our lives means healthcare. So one of the big topic is healthcare or MedTech. So I think it's a great chance to come to Japan. And also we launched some incubation facility in Osaka. But so now I'd like to say, now the Japan is, very, MedTech area is very hot topic in Japan. So if you are interested in Japan market, please come to Japan. Please let me know, or also contact with me through the MedTech Innovator APAC. But then finally, I'd like to say that our final destination is, of course, business success is important, but our final destination is to save the patient all over the world. Providing the better medical solution. That is, our final destination. So that if we are interested in, please go forward together. So that is what I prepared today. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you so much, Yagi-san, for that introduction. It's a very impressive background and track record of Japan Biodesign. And congratulations on the white paper that we've had the privilege of reading. Very exciting, and I think the objectives of that white paper are very aligned with what we're trying to do at MedTech Innovator. So for our audience, you will have the opportunity to ask questions directly, both of Yagi-san as well as of Sugimoto-san, CEO of INOPASE, in just a moment. So what I will do now is I will share, thanks again, Yagi-san, for that presentation. I will now give a quick overview of MedTech Innovator, who we are, what we do, let me just make sure that everyone can see that slide. So I won't take more than 10 minutes or so, just providing a short overview of the program. So for those of you who are not familiar with MedTech Innovator, we are officially, according to US analysts, the world's largest accelerator for medical technology. And when we talk about medical technology, it's a relatively broad definition. We cover traditional medical devices, we cover digital health, and we cover in vitro diagnostics. We are a non-profit organization, and you see a number of logos here at the bottom of the screen. So we are completely industry-led. So much of what we do is guided by the partnerships that we have with our corporate partners here in Asia Pacific and around the world. So the photo that you see here was taken a couple of years ago now, in conjunction with our Asia Pacific Grand Finals here in Singapore. So typically our Grand Finals for the Asia Pacific program will always take place in Singapore. This was, I believe, in 2022. So in terms of some statistics, I mentioned we're the largest accelerator in the world, and that's measured by the number of alumni companies. As of the end of 2024, we had globally 717 alumni companies. About 124 of those came out of the Asia Pacific program, and the balance out of our US and European programs. 96% of those companies have either been acquired or are still active, and they've gone on to raise close to $9 billion in follow-on equity funding. We've had 50 acquisitions or exits. In fact, the last one was just in December, when one of our cohort companies from MedTech Innovator Asia Pacific, based in Vietnam, VinBrain, was acquired by NVIDIA. Generally, many of our applicants are a little bit later stage, so about 1 in 3 typically generates revenue, but we do welcome earlier stage companies as well. As you can see here at the top, we have well over 500 reviewers, judges, and mentors globally. And of course, Yagi-san, we're honored to have him as one of our judges. And if you do apply to the program and get to pitch, you will probably get to meet him as one of our judges. We're in the 12th year of operation globally, and we've been running the Asia Pacific program since 2019. It is a 4-month virtual accelerator, so you don't have to travel anywhere to participate. For the Asia Pacific program, we give away up to $300,000 in prizes and awards. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment, because the cash awards are completely non-dilutive. We create impact, obviously, for the startup community by helping them accelerate their growth plans, and by helping companies in major markets like Japan, but also Korea and India and China and so on, to go global and to expand beyond their borders and be successful outside of their domestic market. We can do that because of the partnerships that we have with global multinationals. and with the network of mentors that we work with. We obviously create impact for our partners, but we act as a scouting platform for the ecosystem more broadly. And ultimately, of course, we're all here to help patients and to make sure that innovations in MedTech get to patients safely and quickly. So I'm not going to go through this in detail, but this is just to give you a flavor of what the Asia Pacific program looks like at MedTech Innovator. So we've had 17 countries represented over the last 5 or 6 years. You will see that not all of them necessarily are based in Asia Pacific. We've had a number of participants from Japan, but also from other countries across the region. We do occasionally have participants from Europe and North America, and this is typically if they have a strategic interest in Asia Pacific, or if they are working on, let's say, an Asian prevalent disease, then it might make sense for them to apply to the Asia Pacific program as opposed to our US program. So as I mentioned earlier, 124 alumni so far in Asia Pacific. They've gone on to raise $188 million in follow-on equity, and about 1 in 3 generates revenue. But as you can see, in terms of development stages here, on the right-hand side and funding stages, we do welcome preclinical and seed stage companies as well. So this is what the process looks like. We typically receive 400 to 500 applications. This is now for Asia Pacific alone. The dates are more or less in line with our US program, and we are currently open for applications until January 15th. So we'll give you all the details of how to apply in just a moment. Once all the applications have come in, we will review those in detail in collaboration with our partners and select the best 20 companies to pitch. We will then host 4 different pitch events. 3 of them will be virtual online. 1 of them will be an in-person pitch event here in Singapore. And once all 60 companies have pitched, we will then review them together with our corporate partners to identify the best 20 out of the 60. And those 20 companies will go on to join our 4-month accelerator. The accelerator takes place between June to October, and it kicks off with, and I'll speak more about that in a moment, with our Innovator Summit in San Francisco. So we expect all of our accelerator companies to fly into California for that meeting and meet with our cohorts from the US and from our other programs as well. But the accelerator itself is virtual, so you then do not need to relocate for the 4 months that the accelerator takes place. All of the mentoring, the educational webinars, all of that can take place online. But we will then host the grand finals for all 20 companies in Singapore, and in 2025, it will be at the end of October. And there will be 4 to 5 companies that will compete for the grand prize, but all 20 companies will be in Singapore to as part of our showcase to the investor community and to the corporate community here. 1 company will walk away with a cash prize of $175,000. As I mentioned earlier, it's completely non-dilutive. MedTech Innovator is a non-profit organization. We do not take any equity in your company. We do not charge a participation fee. So there's really no downside to apply. You need to spend a little bit of time to complete the application because it's a fairly detailed application, but you do not need to share your credit card details. We will not charge you any money for this, and we will certainly not take equity in your company. These are some of the key dates for 2025. I'm not going to go through this in detail. I just wanted to share with you that the pitch events, as you can see here in the second column, will take place from the 5th of March to the 23rd of April. Our kickoff in San Francisco will be the 24th to the 26th of June. And the Innovator Summit is a kickoff for our current cohort, but it's also an opportunity for us to invite back our alumni. So hopefully we'll have the pleasure of maybe having Sugimoto-san from INOPASE to join us again in San Francisco in 2025. The accelerator itself then has a number of key components. We'll talk a bit more about that in a moment. And the grand finals will take place in Singapore in October. These are some of the metrics that we look at when we try to very objectively evaluate the applications. I will not go through this in detail. You'll find this on our website. But these are some examples of the types of metrics that we and our reviewers look at when they review applications. In terms of the accelerator and the content in the accelerator, there are a number of things that we provide our companies. Two key components. One is the educational curriculum, which is a series of webinars, and one is the mentorship. The mentorship is one-to-one, and we will talk a little bit more about that in the mentorship, maybe that INOPASE received during the program last year. But we do try to match the mentor or the best possible mentors for each of the companies. As a minimum, every company will have one mentor. In some cases, they are fortunate to have 2 or even 3 mentors. And I believe in the case of INOPASE, they had 3 mentors last year. Just to share this photograph with you from our San Francisco Innovator Summit. This was taken in 2024. And as I mentioned earlier, the 2025 summit will take place on the 24th to 26th of June. It is a closed door, a very large event. We expect about 1,100 participants over 4 days. And it's an opportunity for all of our cohort companies to meet, kick off the accelerator, but it's also an opportunity to meet with our alumni. We run a number of workshops that are alumni-led. We also have many of our corporate partners there, and some of the mentors as well. I spoke about the virtual training program, and we do a series of educational webinars, and these are tailored to the specific cohort, and we do a survey at the beginning of each cohort to tailor this particular program. And you can see it's a broad range of topics, from fundraising to working with corporate partners, to attracting talent, regulatory strategy, commercialization, and managing distribution channels. We also talk about reimbursement and pricing. We talk about PR and intellectual property. So it covers a very broad range of topics. Finally, I just wanted to share a few photographs from our 2024 program. Some of these are taken in Singapore. Some of these are taken in San Francisco. But as you can see, although the accelerator itself is virtual and online, there are multiple opportunities to engage with the community, to meet in person, to meet with hospital groups, with clinicians, with investors, with corporate partners, as well as with your other cohort peers from the US, Europe, and elsewhere. This is the group of 20 companies that were in Singapore in September last year. So you can see, of course, INOPASE holding up one of their checks here. The winner of last year's MedTech Innovator program was a company from Taiwan called Prevent, working on a Class 3 device, an implantable to treat speech disorders. So as I mentioned earlier, applications are now open for our 2025 program, and the deadline is January the 15th. So you still have a week, 10 days to complete this. And this is the QR code. If you use this QR code, it will take you to the application page. You can also just go to medtechinnovator.asia, and you will find all the information to how to apply and how to go about submitting your application. Once you log in, if you're a startup applying for the program in 2025, you will first, step number 1, need to sign up and set up an account. And then you just add the profile of your company, and then you select the program that you're applying for, in this case, the MedTech Innovator Asia Pacific Accelerator Program, and then the application begins. So with that, I will pause my my slide share and turn to our panelists. Welcome Sugimoto-san, we are delighted to have you back. Great to see you again. We have Yagi-san here as well from Japan Biodesign. And this is an opportunity for me to ask some questions of you and have you talk a little bit about your experience with the MedTech Innovator program. So let me start by turning to Sugimoto-san. And we haven't really spoken about what INOPASE does. So maybe tell us, first of all, a little bit about your company and what you do, and then maybe share with us how you found out about MedTech Innovator and what made you decide to apply.
Sure. Thank you very much, Frederick, for your kind introduction. I appreciate this opportunity to introduce our company and also our experience at the MedTech Innovator Asia Pacific program last year. So my name is Munemasa Sugimoto, co-founder and CEO of INOPASE, and we are also an alumni company of Japan Biodesign. So we participated in the Japan Biodesign program in 2020. And afterwards, we started our company, INOPASE, in 2021. And we are developing implantable neuromodulation, the medical device, to treat the overactive bladder. And so our key value that we offer for patients is that it's a closed loop, the system in combination of the nerve sensing and stimulation to make this neuromodulation therapy more personalized manner. And we believe that this approach improves the therapeutic outcome. And so when we applied the MedTech Innovator Asia Pacific program last year, we were at the seed stage, and we were actually preparing for the seed funding during that time. And the reason why we found that this is a great opportunity for us, first, because we were recommended by our investors as well as the US MedTech experts to let us apply this MedTech Innovator program. So that was a background. And maybe I think the reason why our investor recommended at that time that to apply this program because as Frederick introduced the MedTech Innovator program, there are many corporate sponsors, especially the MedTech Strategics corporate are there. So this program allow us to receive the direct feedback how the big corporates see what we do. That's quite important. The feedback advice we can gain through this program. That was actually the very nice advice, and that we really experienced that's exactly what we obtained from the program. So that was brief the background. Yes.
That's great. That's very helpful. We'll talk a little bit more about the mentorship in a moment because I wanted to get your thoughts on that and the mentors that you worked with. Let me just turn to Yagi-san as well, because you've been a judge for MedTech Innovator Asia Pacific for several years. You worked with a number of spin-off companies at Japan Biodesign. What would you say would be the benefits for Japan Biodesign graduates to join an accelerator program like MedTech Innovator?
Yeah, okay. So I think that this area, speed is one of the important factor. And to meet the right person is, very important. But sometimes it's not easy to find the right person in Japan. But, in MedTech Innovator, you have a lot of, experienced alumni and also people who are active in the front line, first line, very active people. And so meeting the right person is big benefits. And also, so that this is similar to the concept of the know-who network. You have a global know-who network. So if that startup want to go abroad, connecting your network is very big benefits for the startup. That is, yes, my
That's great.
opinion.
The
Yes.
know who network. I like that. Thanks for that, Yagi-san. So Sugimoto-san, when you were selected to the accelerator in 2024, we kicked it off in San Francisco or in Mountain View, California, in Palo Alto, close to Palo Alto, with the Innovator Summit. Maybe share with us a little bit about your experience at the MedTech Innovator Summit. How was that, and what were some of the benefits and maybe contacts and connections that you were able to make there?
Yes, thank you very much. So that was obviously one of the big highlights from the MedTech Innovator the program. And because so as a Frederick presentation to show the big picture of the everyone get together. So I think the US program, the more or less around 100 startup, and also from Asia Pacific program, the 20 and other associated programs. So all in all, more than 100 startup people, and also the associated experts and supporter get together in one place to spend multiple days. That's really energetic, quite energetic, and very important, precious opportunity. And I think that the specific value we experience that obviously that we get connected with many people, especially we can also get connected with our peer, the MedTech founders, including the alumni.
Yeah.
And there are many the variable session there, but one session I really like it is that there was lots of the round table, the workshop, and many alumni, the founders of the MedTech Innovator share their experience to talk about some of the specific points. For example, how to manage the funding, how to manage the intellectual property strategy, how to manage the US market entry. So there are lots of the very important topics for our early phase MedTech founders, and we can learn a lot from other peer the founders. So that connection and the feedback was a very important highlight for me.
Thank you for that. Those are
So
great points.
let me add some comments.
Of course.
Yeah, I sometimes, in my experience, CEO of the startup in Japan is sometimes isolated. Because other people are working in the big company, and so it's very good for them to have communicate with CEOs of a startup in the similar phase and share the experience, exchange their opinion, and also Sugimoto-san mentioned physical access to the alumni. I mean, we can meet the CEO of the startup in a little later phase, not too late, a little later phase. So I think that by sharing their experience, the CEO of the startup can learn a lot and go forward with more effectively. So that is a very big.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Thanks for that, Yagi-san. In fact, and I completely agree. And it's not just startup CEOs in Japan, startup CEOs anywhere in the world. It's a lonely job sometimes being an entrepreneur and a startup founder. So the peer-to-peer network is really quite important. One of the things that I didn't mention earlier, but Sugimoto-san was part of this, was we launched something that we call leadership pods. So leadership pods are small groups of peers that they're not competing, but they're all at about the same stage of development, and they can be based in different countries. So they can be based in India and Japan and the US and Taiwan and Singapore, doesn't matter. But they all grapple with the same challenges. Building a company in MedTech and being successful and getting the product approved and registered and launched and commercially successful. Running clinical trials and getting investors, all those sorts of things. Having that small, what we call a leadership pod, where they can informally talk to each other over WhatsApp or over a couple of calls or over a beer is quite valuable. And that was something that we launched at the San Francisco Summit as well. So great point.
Yeah, can totally
please,
agree.
please.
I think, sir, informal talk is, very, very important.
It is.
In the seminar, they cannot talk about everything, but sometimes, physical access and informal talk is very beneficial for both.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and they
totally
can
agree.
recommend contacts, and they can share experiences. So that can be very valuable, because it certainly is a lonely job sometimes. Sugimoto-san, I wanted to ask you a little bit about, then after the summit, you came back to Japan and so on, and we started the formal accelerator. And of course, there were the educational webinars, but there was also the mentorship. And I wanted to get some of your thoughts on how your perception of the mentorship for INOPASE, because I know that you had Johnson & Johnson was one of your mentors, Cambridge Consultants was one of your mentor, Teleflex was one of your mentors. You were fortunate to have 3 mentors. I think 2 of them were, if I'm not mistaken, were actually based in Japan. Maybe tell us a little bit about the mentorship experience and how that went, and some of the benefits that you got out of that.
Thank you very much. And that was also the very important opportunity for us to gain such a mentorship program. And we are very lucky to have the multiple mentors, Johnson & Johnson Teleflex from the corporate strategics point of view, and the Cambridge Consultant, obviously from the product development point of view. And so the mentorship program was itself quite flexible. And what we did is basically one mentoring every 2 or 3 weeks during that program. And we have the discussion opportunity with the business development experts or product development experts. So they already are familiar with what we do, so that we really get into the specific points. And one point that I wanted to highlight is that, as I mentioned earlier, for early phase startup or MedTech, the startup in general, so that we are thinking for the future M&A or some kind of alliance or partnership with the big strategics. And we are always asked by investors or other stakeholders about how feasible it is to bring us to attract those big strategics for our solution. So it's not easy, from my experience, to get such a direct feedback from the certain business development representative of the big medtech strategics. What we did is that from Johnson & Johnson Teleflex, our mentor was a certain business development representative or marketing representative, and they are super professional, and they gave us a very active, important feedback for us to fine-tune our value proposition or fine-tune our roadmap, how to optimize our process to get them involved in the future. So that such kind of direct feedback is quite important. The value the MedTech Innovator program could offer for the early phase startup. Yeah.
That's a great point, and of course, we hear this very often from our alumni, that the relationships that they develop with their mentors, especially their corporate mentors, is very helpful when they then go to investors to ask for money, because they can then show that they already have conversations with strategics. Because as we know in MedTech, the exit typically is a trade sale, much more likely than an IPO. So those relationships, of course, are important. Anything you wanted to maybe add on the webinars and some of the topics there as well? So what's that?
I think the webinar also cover the every important aspects of the MedTech journey. And also, it's not a one-way lecture. It's quite interactive. And I remember that for MedTech, the MedTech Innovator cohort companies, we have the dedicated 30 minutes, the closed Q&A session. That's also the quite a good opportunity to ask very specific question related to what we do. And on top of that, once we get connected, we have a chance to make a follow-up communication with the many experts in each expertise. So that's also another the big value for MedTech founders.
That's a great point. Yeah. So for those of you who are not aware, the first hour of our webinars, our educational webinars, is usually public, so anyone can watch this on YouTube. But then we do closed door Q&A just with the cohort companies and the speakers, where they can ask questions that obviously it will not be disclosed to the public. Excellent. I wanted to turn to Yagi-san for a moment and maybe get your thoughts on your general experience as a judge with MedTech Innovator Asia Pacific, the types of companies that you've seen, and maybe some tips from you on for companies that are applying to the program. What should they think about to get positive reviews from the judges?
Yeah, okay. I think there, yeah, we have some question like that. So there, yeah, also I'd like to say, share the tips. I think there, in this area, the clinical value is important. So there, I think there, the pains of how big pain the patient have, that it needs to be figured out. So, and also the, how big clinical value they can achieve. That one is, sometimes some startups, they focus on the technology and okay, so there, yeah, my question is so far. So that sometimes happen, but I think that, yeah, anyway, first priority is clinical value. And also, actually, I have 3 questions. First one is, what kind of problem and what pains. Second one is why you win the game. So there, you have what kind of unique insight you have, or what kind of team member, or what kind of resources you have, or something. And the third one is why now. So why now you join the race? Sometimes, as I mentioned, I contribute policy making, and the government want to focus on, sometimes government want to focus on some area, and they put more budget or something like that. So sometimes one step aside and see the environment and figure out what kind of positioning is best for the project. And but in short, I think to demonstrate how sexy your project is. That one is, in Silicon Valley, you say that one is, yes, very important tips.
That's great feedback. Thank you so much, Yagi-san, for that. And it's, I think, very useful for the startups that are listening in on this webinar to hear directly from a judge, one of our judges, on how he evaluates and how he looks at companies. And I think the point about clinical evidence is very critical. We see very often companies that have maybe clinical evidence that is very localized, that may be from just a hospital down the road. They have not thought about gaining clinical evidence from other centers or from other parts of the world, where maybe clinical practices are different, maybe patient flows are different, maybe some of the size of the operating room may be different. So there are differences that affect clinical practice that are very important to at least not have mapped out completely, but be aware of and be able to answer questions from the judges when you present. Thank you so much for that, Yagi-san. Sugimoto-san, I wanted to just turn back to you in a moment. But before I do that, let me just remind everyone online that you are most welcome to ask your questions either using the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen or the chat function. So please feel welcome to just ask those questions, and we will get back to you very shortly. We'll take probably another 5 minutes of discussion, and then we'll jump into Q&A. So Sugimoto-san, I was going to ask you about your experience then coming to Singapore at the grand finals and the showcase. That was the end of the program. You were one of the 4 companies up on the stage presenting to the judges during the finals. Maybe share a little bit about your experience and during that event.
Yes, thank you. So that was a big the final, I don't know, the big event, and consisting of the many programs. And because we were lucky to be selected as a finalist, so that we had a chance to make a final pitch to the broader audience there. On top of that, there are multiple the panel discussion, the session together with our peer, the MedTech, the founder colleagues, to talk about some the specific the therapeutic area, the key challenge or market trend. So that was also the very good learning opportunity. For me, the more importantly that was also the good opportunity to reconnect in person with our the MedTech founder colleagues. And because most of the program happened the online, so that was a good the timing to get reconnected in person, to share our key learning or share our key progress. And actually the many founders are making a progress in a very fast pace, so that we can learn each other, we can encourage each other. So that was also the very good time in Singapore.
Great point. I wanted to ask you as well for INOPASE, now looking back at the program, what has been maybe the most valuable aspect of the MedTech Innovator program for INOPASE and maybe for your team?
Yes, so I think that there are many values, and for the very short term, that being part of the being selected to the MedTech Innovator program itself, that gave us certain credibility. For example, that we closed our seed funding during the MedTech Innovator program, and of course we explained to the investors that we are selected to this MedTech Innovator program, meaning that our solution certainly attract the future big strategics is looking for. That's also the good positive message, good validation for the investors. So such kind of the very short-term value that we could expect. But on top of that, I think being part of the MedTech Innovator community give us a long-lasting value, not only the program period, so that we get connected with the peer founders and 2025, 2026, so the many other people, MedTech founder are joining this community, and so it's keep growing. So, and also the expert network, the corporate partner network keep growing. So it's a very precious to be part of that community. And if once we make certain progress, we can find the new partner, new expert who may help our future journey. Also, so such kinds of I think the community is quite a long-lasting value that we should looking for. Yeah.
Great. Thank you for that. And final question to you, Sugimoto-san. Any tips or advice that you would give to companies, whether they're based in Japan or anywhere else, that are thinking, should I apply? Should I not apply to MedTech Innovator? What advice would you give to them?
Thank you. So I think the point is quite relevant to what Yagi-san explained, that those are the very important point as always. But at the same time so for example, regarding the clinical evidence, I think that would be fantastic if the MedTech startup already have the clinical evidence when to apply the MedTech Innovator program. That's fantastic. but it was not our case.
Right.
So that we didn't have the clinical evidence itself. But what we did is to work on the animal, the study to generate the preclinical, the proof of concept data. So this was what we had at the timing of the application. But we should not consider it's too early or something ourselves. We should apply, and that's exactly what we did. And I think the one tips I could share is that even if that we don't have much the clinical evidence or such the data, we need to very clarify what the value proposition that our solution could offer. So I think the value proposition is one of the keywords. So we are keeping being asked that what is the value proposition of your solution, and why that only you can make it, why other competitors cannot make it. So that such kind of very fundamental points that you will be asked many times, so that needs to be very solid, clear on the application. That may be I think the one tips I wanted to share.
That's a great point. Certainly, value proposition is very critical. And to your point earlier about being preclinical as opposed to clinical, absolutely, very important point. You can apply to MedTech Innovator even if you're not at a clinical stage. So we have many companies that are preclinical, and certainly a lot of class 3 devices. Many of them are preclinical stage, and they are very, very welcome to apply. So no issue there. But typically, you're right. Value proposition is something that our judges ask about, and I see Yagi-san is nodding.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, clinical value is important. Small clinical value and good technology doesn't work.
Yeah.
But then, clear. But then clinical evidence or a kind of, if the startup can demonstrate some feasibility or some probability to be successful, I think it's okay with, of course, with a big clinical value.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. Some of the other things that we always ask of, or our judges will always ask during the startup pitches, that you need to have thought through if you're applying is, of course, the value proposition and clinical or preclinical evidence, but also your business model and your revenue model. How are you going to monetize what you're doing? And for people to understand how that's going to work. So there are a few parts of the pitch presentation that sometimes get missed out. Another one that often gets missed out is the competitor analysis. We see a lot of companies that have a very weak competitor analysis, or worst case, they will say we have no competitors, which frankly just means that they haven't done their homework very often. So having a good, solid competitor analysis is really important, because investors will ask about that. The MedTech Innovator judges will ask about that. So that's certainly something you want to think about. Very good. We have about 7 minutes left, and I wanted to turn to our delegates now, for our participants here, for any questions. We have a question here from one of our participants. And I think in part we have probably addressed this. It says, I'm intending to apply to the program. Do you have any advice on getting through the selection? So if you can address the points that we've just raised in terms of value proposition, in terms of clinical and preclinical evidence, in terms of business model, those are all important. I shared earlier the metrics that we look at. You'll find those metrics on our website. Take a look at those. And also when you fill in your application, you will see and you'll be guided by the types of questions that we're asking. And if you completely have no idea about the answer to some of those questions, then maybe take some time and think that through before you apply. So those are certainly some points that you want to bear in mind as an applicant to get through the selection. Another question here is, when should I expect to hear back from my application? That's a great question. So the deadline now is January 15th. And we will then take several weeks to review the applications. As I mentioned earlier, the first online pitch event will happen at the beginning of March. So between 15th of January and the beginning of March, you will probably hear back from us. Now, if you don't hear back from us during that period of time, don't worry, because we have 4 pitch events. Each of the online events cover different topics, different clinical areas of focus. So the first one is, I believe it's on radiology and imaging and a few other things. Number 2 may be on surgical innovations, and number 3 might be on digital health. So we may not give you feedback on your application, and we may not send you an invitation to pitch until we are just before the 2nd or the 3rd or the 4th pitch event. So if you don't hear from us by the time the first pitch event takes place, don't worry. There are more pitch events. But if you are curious and you're wondering what the status is, drop us an email and we'll give you that feedback. Any other questions from the participants at all? Feel free to queue them up. I just wanted to flag one question that we get quite often is about non-disclosure agreements and confidentiality. And I wanted to say that when you complete your application, don't send us anything that is confidential. When you share information and a pitch deck with a VC, they will not sign an NDA with you. We, MedTech Innovator, will not sign an NDA with you, so don't share anything that is strictly confidential. The same when you then interact with your mentors. We typically recommend the startups as well as the mentors to begin the mentor discussion without an NDA. If you have to, and if you go into very detailed technical discussions, you can then choose to mutually agree and sign a non-disclosure agreement, but that's only during the mentorship. But we would suggest that you have a first introductory call with your mentor. In many cases, there is no need to sign an NDA for the mentorship, but in some cases, you might choose to do so. Let's see if we have any other questions from the participating companies. We'll take a few minutes and see if we have anything else. In the meantime, because we are getting up to the top of the hour, so let me turn to our speakers, Yagi-san and Sugimoto-san. Again, thank you so much for joining us. Any final, and let me turn to Yagi-san first, any final advice or tips that we haven't covered yet that you would want to share with companies in Japan or elsewhere that are thinking about applying?
Yeah, so our final destination is to save the patient all over the world. So join us and go together. And also for the Japanese startup, as I mentioned, we made some recommendation in policy. One of the topic is go global. So the Japanese government want the Japanese startup to go abroad, mainly in U.S. market. And I think the MedTech Innovator Asia Pacific, in this session, you know about a lot of benefits of to joining the MedTech Innovator program. So I think I strongly recommend you to apply the MedTech Innovator Asia Pacific program to go if you are interested in go abroad. So the print, please join us and go together. So that is my comments.
Great final words. Thank you so much, Yagi-san. And we didn't get a chance to speak in detail about the white paper, but certainly the recommendation to go global is very much aligned with what we're doing as an accelerator. And for companies that are based in Japan or elsewhere that are looking to enter the US market, joining the MedTech Innovator Asia Pacific program is a first stepping stone to do that. You are welcome to also apply to our US MedTech Innovator US program. Just bear in mind that all of the education, the webinars, everything will take place on US time, and you will be competing with with hundreds or thousands probably of US startup applicants as well. So we would recommend you to join the APAC program first. We still very much look at the US market and give advice and have experts that are knowledgeable about the US market. So again, to Yagi-san's point about the recommendations from the white paper and going global, hopefully MedTech Innovator can provide some support along the way to help companies go global. Sugimoto-san, any thoughts, final recommendations from you?
Yes, I would also highly recommend to think of applying this program for early phase medtech startups. And I think the application selection process itself was well designed, so that you will learn a lot throughout the process. So that I really encourage on this opportunity. So thank you very much for today, and I really enjoyed the discussion.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So thank you, all of you who joined us, and those of you watching us on YouTube and LinkedIn. Feel free to contact us if you have any questions. We look forward to receiving your applications. And again, a big thanks to Yagi-san and Sugimoto-san for joining the conversation this morning. I really enjoyed seeing both of you again and having a chat. And I look forward to seeing Yagi-san on our judging panel in a month or two's time, and hopefully Sugimoto-san will see you in San Francisco in June as an alumni representative. So thank you all so much, and do let us know if you have any questions. Enjoy the rest of your day and the rest of your week. Looking forward to your applications. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.